Sumit.
Sumit, MCHI. Sumit, please unmute yourself. Hello.
Okay.
Meeting will be started in 2 minutes.
हेलो આવ્યા હમણાં જ આવ્યા અંદર છે.
જીતુભાઈ આવી ગયા? સુમિત,
જીતુભાઈ અટકાઈ ગયા છે, ટીએમસી માં છે, જરા બાર કમિશનર સર સાથે છે, તો કીધું સ્ટાર્ટ કરો તમે, પછી અગર નીકળશે એટલે જોઈન કરશે. તમે કન્ટિન્યુ કરો, તમે ઇન્ટ્રોડક્શન.
Okay. Yeah. Good evening, friends. At RERA Practitioner Welfare Association, I, President of the association, welcome you all.
કમિશનર સર સાથે છે.
Yeah.
તો કીધું સ્ટાર્ટ કરો તમે, પછી અગર નીકળશે તે
Yes.
તમે કન્ટિન્યુ કરો તમે.
Yes. Yeah. So I welcome you all to this free webinar and discussion on at RERA Practitioner Welfare Association. I, President of the association, welcome you all.
डबल क्यों आ रहा है? रिपीट हो रहा है. हाँ, बाद में.
हेलो.
सर कहीं पे तो YouTube और Zoom दोनों साथ में चालू है शायद.
ओके ओके.
इसमें YouTube का भी आ रहा है बाद में का. वो थोड़ा टाइम लेग के बाद आ रहा है. ऐसा कैसा तेरे इधर चालू है इसलिए कि क्या?
सर कहीं पे तो YouTube और Zoom दोनों साथ में चालू है शायद.
मेरे इधर तो खाली जूम ही चालू है.
YouTube का भी आ रहा है.
ये दूसरे ब्राउजर में चालू था.
Oh, 1 minute. Yes. 1 minute. Yes. Now the problem is solved. So friends, I welcome you all to this webinar, which is organized by RERA Practitioner Welfare Association jointly with MCHI Credai Thane Unit and Indian Institute of Architect Thane chapter. We also have with us the President Architect Makarand Toraskar with us. So friend, today we will have discussion on implication of this union budget on direct tax and indirect tax. I had discussed with both the speaker. So far as indirect tax is concerned, there are very few amendments because the GST Council takes their own amendment at regular interval. So this budget is focusing purely on the rather restricting the input tax credit, and thereby they are increasing the GST. They want to increase the GST collection. But what we will do is when Ashish Shah, speaker on the indirect tax, will take on, he will first discuss what are the changes, and then we can take up the questions on real estate pertaining to GST issue. That we can take up because we have the time over there. So far as direct tax is concerned, CA Vyomesh Pathak will take over because there are n number of amendments. Though in this speech of the Honorable Finance Minister, we cannot get many amendments, but when it comes on paper, there are n number of amendments. So I welcome all once again, and I'll request since Makarand Toraskarji is here, I'll request him to say a few words about their association. In fact, I would like the Indian Institute of Architects to have joined hand with RERA Practitioner Association because they are one of the core professional without which project cannot be started. First of all, the project is designed on the table of the architect, and then it gets completed on land. So architect is very crucial element, professional, for completion of the RERA project. So is the chartered accountant, advocate, engineer. So this association, I'll just briefly introduce what we intend to do at RERA Practitioner Welfare Association. We have already started making representation with various authority like Tribunal, Maharera, and we have many times given the representation. We go and personally meet them also and discuss the various day-to-day issues which real estate promoter or allottee or association of allottee are facing. So today the major issue with the real estate is this issue of the stalled project. There are n number of stalled projects, and here as a professional like architect, engineer, chartered accountant, advocate, we can certainly contribute to convert this stalled project into reality, because these are where, like, what is the balance cost to complete, how it can be completed. So all that blueprint can be prepared by we professional, and we can submit our plan to the RERA authority, and the RERA authority will certainly cooperate us wherever they can do so within the legal framework. So there are nearly some 3,700 labs project as of today, which is an alarming situation. So in time to come, we all professional will have to come together and represent before the RERA authority. So I would request even the Architect Association also to become the professional member, the individual architect also to become the professional member of our association, so that we in a together we can do proper representation, we can protect the interest of our member. So with this few words, now I hand over to Makarand Toraskar ji to say few words.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ashwin bhai, for these generous words. This is Architect Makarand Toraskar on behalf of Indian Institute of Architects Thane Center. I welcome all the dignitaries, the speakers, and the viewers present here to this very innovative seminar today's. In the beginning itself, I would like to pay my gratitude to CREDAI MCHI and RERA Practitioners Welfare Association also, that they have given us the opportunity to get associated with these two organizations and for this seminar also. And I would like to thank Jitu bhai and Ashwin bhai for that. In fact, this is a very innovative seminar, I would like to say. And I don't know how many of my colleagues have joined today, but I have personally requested all of them to be here because see, for us, the financial matters are of not so meaning we are so reluctant to get associated with financial aspects of the project. We generally concentrate on designing and then actual executions and licensing and all that. But this is a very important aspect, and we generally don't get involved into it. But this scenario has to be changed, and that's why such kind of seminars are very important. And as you said, Ashwin bhai, today itself we have a meeting in the late evening of my executive committee, and I will put your suggestion in that meeting itself that we should get together sometimes and discuss on these issues and how we can come together, these two organizations, and we can do a great job in these RERA issues. So with that, I would like to hand over this to Sumit to please proceed, and definitely I will come back to you, Ashwin bhai, for a joint discussion meeting or something like that.
Thank you very much, Makarandji. Now I'll request CA Dilip Agrawal to introduce our first speaker, CA Vyomesh Pathak, who will be speaking on the implication of union budget on the direct tax. CA Dilip Agrawal.
Yeah, thank you, Ashwin bhai, for the opportunity for on such a greater platform, I can say. On the RERA, we are having such platform, but at the same time, as of now, we have MCHI or CREDAI Thane, Indian Institute of Architects. All those you people are so service oriented that ongoingly you are managing so many programs for the benefit of members. And I am really privileged to become part of your RERA Practitioner Welfare Association member, life member. And I request all the professionals, please get registered in this because it's a very novice and energetic platform, and they are taking challenges, and all the office bearers are extraordinary speakers on their own subjects, and they constantly contributing to real estate. And in a way, I can say Makarand bhai here, as a president of the Indian Institute of Architects, he can also take some initiative for the benefit of architects and other professionals. Now, I'm just taking this leverage to introduce my colleague, Vyomesh Pathak. He is a very energetic and young chartered accountant and upcoming in the higher level of the professional and he has been serving to the profession for more than a decade, and he is more experts in the corporate tax advisory compliances matters and assisting various multinational companies, Indian corporate clients, including cross-border transactions, investments, capital structuring, business structuring, exchange control regulation, merger, business organizations, etc. And he's also having good idea about RERA. He has also been part of the RERA study group and contributed on amending and vetting the book when we wrote. And then I can also say the his expertise in various advisory and due diligence services, which relates to business restructuring as well as the direct tax laws. And currently, I'm proud to say that he is undergoing a PhD course in international taxation. And these things are not the normal thing; it's extraordinary, a kind of achievement it will be for him. And now he is a co-author for various books. Mainly, he's known for the compendium on international taxation published by the Chamber of Tax Consultant, and then he's co-author of the book ICDS, which was very well known in the year 2017 when the scheme came. And thereafter, I can also say he's a contributor in WRC referencer and newsletters, and he is a regular contributor by of articles in CTC Journal, Tax Sutra, AIFTP Journal, and many more. And likewise, he is a regular speaker at various platforms, including KPMG Tax Academy on the particular international taxes and FEMA. And he's a committee member of various places, including the being the vice chairman in the Chamber of Tax Consultants in the area of Law and Representation Committee, Direct Tax Committee, Research and Publication Committee, Study Circle and Study Group Committee. And one will surprised to know such a accomplished person and young person is having the vision to contribute to people by way of having few activities out of which he is earning money and contributing the 100% for the social cause. Those activities, he is especially social worker and also a professional numerology, logist consultant and tarot card reader. And whatever income he gets, he is contributing for the social cause. And now I introduce such a dynamic and versatile chartered accountant before us, and so that he can be explaining all the minor provisions, how it is going to impact. Particularly, this platform is of the real estate, especially focusing on those where we are getting impacted in the real estate. Over to you, Vyomeshji Pathak.
Yeah, thank you, Dilip Bhai, for a kind introduction. Now I'll request CA Vyomesh Pathak to enlighten us on the various aspects of this union budget, which directly impact lower class, middle class, and upper class so far as direct tax is concerned. Over to Vyomesh Pathak.
Sure, sir. Sir, can you just allow me to share my screen? I'm not able to do that.
1 minute. I will make you host only. 1 minute. I have made you co-host.
Okay. I'll just share my screen.
Yes.
Yeah. So is my screen visible?
Yes, it is started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ashwin Bhai and the RERA Association. I also thank the other organizations like the MCHI Credai Thane chapter and the Architecture Institute. Makranji is here. So I take this opportunity to thank all the organizations for giving me this opportunity to present my views on the budget and discuss the provisions in brief. So just to give you a backdrop of this budget, basically, it was one of the shortest speech of the current finance minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. Speech which was almost done in an hour or so. We have been listening to her on the budget days, and This is one of our shortest speech, if I remember correctly. So now, what we'll cover today is basically we'll obviously set the context, give the background of the budget, then move on to the personal taxes and the other aspects of the taxation, uh, the direct tax, virtual tax, the virtual digital assets, which is the buzzword today. Few amendments in relation to trust, which may be relevant and important, and towards the end the key takeaways, and before and then probably I'll hand it over to Asit Bhai for the indirect tax and the GST matters. So quickly moving on to the introduction and the context setting. So past couple of years have been very challenging for entire world, including India. India is not an exception in terms of the COVID, both human and economic loss which we have seen. And fortunately now, with the third wave settling down, and with the Omicron settling down and things opening up, we are almost back to the normalcy, and we are back to where we left in the pre-pandemic phase. And we are forecasting a growth of 9.2%, which is a good sign as far as our budget estimates are concerned. So we can say that our economy is rebounding and we are coming back to normalcy. Economic survey highlights, I'll not spend much time on this. Maybe I'll share the presentation later on. But as I said, that India is the crux, and the bottom line is that we are getting back to the normalcy, and we are getting back to the high rise growth rate which we were expecting, which is of 9.2%. So effectively we can say that we are back to the pre-pandemic phase, and we are ready to set off, or we are ready to take off, rather not set off, but we are ready to take off for newer heights as far as the Indian economy is concerned. Few policy announcement now. Of late the budgets have been more about policy rather than the income tax or the GST amendments, because earlier the budget used to be, if I remember, when we started doing budget analysis in our early days of career, it was all about, we used to start with the direct tax proposals and the GST, or at that point in time VAT and indirect tax proposals. But now it will be doing injustice to not to cover policy announcements, because what is happening is currently the government is more focused on the policy aspects rather than the taxation aspects. Yes, taxation aspects are there, but the focus is more on the infrastructure development, the growth of various roads, highways, railways, and all infrastructure segments. So therefore, in a way, the real estate sector, or the BCRE sector as we call it, that is building construction and real estate sector, is also one of the key contributors to the Indian infrastructure, because as we know that Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, that is housing for all by 2022, was the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister, and we see 48,000 crores being allocated in this budget to the real estate sector. And also we heard and we also read in the budget speech that 80 lakh houses is the target for this year, for under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So that is the opportunity being available for the real estate sector. Now, all said and done, what is relevant is the policy is there, the implementation is something which we need to focus on, because we have been seeing many policy announcement, but what is relevant is the ground reality and on ground implementation of all those policies. It is always good to hear Atmanirbhar Bharat for defense procurements. It is always good to hear boost to private investment, the PPP, that is public private investments, etc., public private partnership. But what really matters is the on ground implementation, because we have a dream of 5 trillion. We have a dream of moving towards 5 trillion economy. So to achieve that target, all these implementation is also important. Yes, policy announcements are there, and it is the first step towards going in the direction. But what is key as far as India as an economy is concerned is that we always have policies, but the implementation is a key challenge. So therefore, what is relevant is how these policies are implemented. So we also have the SEZ Act, which will be replaced now, and within 6 months we'll have a new act replacing the SEZ Act. So this is all about the policy announcement. And yes, digital money is being introduced by RBI shortly. So we will have, we can say, our own cryptocurrency, so-called a legal cryptocurrency of India, which will be a digital, the first official digital currency of India. So with time, I think we will get to the reality around that as well. Now coming to the personal taxation, the first part of my discussion. Now, as I said that earlier, it was all about the individuals and what will be my slab rate, whether my ATC deduction will increase, whether my ATG deduction will increase, whether my mediclaim deduction will increase. That was all about the entire budget discussion. And even being an individual, and more so from all the middle class people and also the salaried people, they are always interested in whether I will get benefited by increased slab rate or reduction in tax rate, etc. But looking at the expenditure on hand or the various projects or plans on hand, it is practically difficult for the government to reduce the tax rate further. They have already reduced the corporate tax rates to 25% and 15% for new manufacturing companies. So practically, if you ask me, it is very difficult. In fact, on a lighter note, if you ask me, since past 2-3 budgets, whenever I have been listening to the announcement, that is the policy announcement, in fact, rather than hoping for reduction in tax rate, I get feared, या मुझे डर लगता है कि बॉस ये कहीं मेरा tax rate बढ़ा ना दे, because so many expenses are being announced or so many projects are being announced, Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti, etc. All those provisions or all those new programs being announced. So my worry always listening to the budget was, boss, itna kharcha karenge, paisa kidhar se लाएंगे? Will it again impact my pocket? Is what my real worry used to be whenever I hear this budget of late. But fortunately, there is no increase. The way I look at it, some people might be disheartened कि मेरा slab rate नहीं बढ़ाया या basic exemption limit नहीं बढ़ाया. But if you ask me personally, I am happy that my tax rate is not increasing or my tax liability is not increasing. The reason being that we are at a growth pace, and we are at a pace where we are growing at a good rate. So whenever an economy is growing, and specifically we are focusing on infrastructure development, it is always relevant or important for us to contribute. And this is our way to contribute to the nation. By obviously contributing the right share of our taxes. So as I said, no change in the basic exemption limit, income tax slabs and the tax rates remain the same. Few amendments, that is the COVID related payments, the government had announced that whatever amount you received towards the COVID treatment, etc., will not be taxable. So now they have brought in an amendment towards the same, that any amount received for treatment of either the employee or his family members. Now, family members include parents, spouse, children, brother and sister who are wholly dependent. इनके treatment के लिए अगर कोई expense employer ने दिया है, so that will not be taxable. That will not be taxable. Then second aspect is that any amount received on death of a person from an employer. So suppose if there is any death and the employer is paying the amount to the family members, even that will not be taxable, irrespective of any amount being paid. If I am receiving any amount from others, that is non-employers. So for example, we have this RERA Practitioners Welfare Association, we have Chartered Accountants Association, and whenever we see someone passing away, we always come forward and contribute some amount to the family members. Obviously, we cannot replace the members, the families members, but we can contribute financially to the family. So if the person has received anything on the debt to the extent of 10 lakh rupees, that will not be taxable. Anything over and above 10 lakhs, that will be taxable. 80DD, again, this is for dependent. That is, deduction was allowed to dependent on death of any critically ill patient. Now the policy has been, now the section has been amended to say that even if it is received by the patient himself, and if he does not die on attaining the age of 60, he will also be eligible to claim this deduction. Earlier, he was not able to claim this deduction. Practically, there are very few people who claim this deduction. Next is NPS, that is National Pension Scheme. as far as the employer's contribution, earlier only 10% was allowable as a deduction or under section 80 CCD. Now for state government employees, this has been enhanced to 14%. Coming to the direct tax aspects, again for corporates also, no increase or no decrease in the corporate tax rates. Last date of commencement now, as you are aware that we have been promoting, or the government has been promoting, the Make in India movement, and they are promoting foreign investors to come and set up their manufacturing plants in India. And we have actually seen many Chinese companies closing down in China and setting up their operations in India. So towards this aspect, the government has announced, relaxation of a lower tax rate of 15% for newly manufacturing companies. Plus, there are also PLIs, that is production linked incentives, being granted to such manufacturing companies. But due to COVID, the people were not able to set up their factories, and they were not able to claim the benefits of the PLIs, etc. So therefore, they have extended this time limit for commencement of manufacturing by 1 year, further 1 year. Earlier it was 31st March 23. Now they have increased it to 31st March 24. So all new companies who are setting up new factories, they can start their factory by 31st of March 2024 to claim this benefit of lower tax of 15%. Also, startups, we have been seeing the last 2 years, despite of pandemic, we have almost 2 lakhs new startup being started in India, and the startup is the buzzword as far as the Indian economy is concerned. And we also see the Shark Tanks, which is being hosted on the television, and a lot of new startups getting because of these programs. Also, we see a lot of new startups getting opportunities for funding avenues, etc. So for startups also, they have extended this time limit by 1 more year. Earlier it was ending on 31st of March 22. Now the newly incorporated startup in the next year also, that is 31st March 2023 तक भी जो नया startup आया, उनको भी 80IAC का benefit मिलेगा. I will not be surprised if this limit is extended even further for a couple of more years. Then next is long-term capital gains to be subject to surcharge at the rate of 15%. Earlier, in case of HNIs, long-term capital gains was subject to higher surcharge of even 37%. Now that has been reduced to 15% for all category of assets. Also for AOPs and the cooperative societies, the surcharge has been reduced to 15% from 37%. So the highest surcharge will be 15% for all the AOPs and the cooperative societies also. A few amendments in terms of dispute resolution. So here the government is giving us an option to file an updated or fresh return within 2 years from the end of the assessment year. So assuming I have filed my return of income and I have forgot to disclose some income. If I have forgot to disclose some income, then government is giving me an opportunity to file an updated return or a fresh return. Even if I have not filed any return, does not matter. I can still file a fresh return or an updated return within 2 years from the end of the assessment year. So for example, my assessment year, now what is an assessment year? Just for the benefit of everyone, assessment year is the next year of the financial year, जिसमें assessment होता है. So for example, financial year 21-22 का assessment year होगा 22-23. So assessment year 22-23 के लिए मेरे पास 2 साल का टाइम है to file this updated return or fresh return. That is till 31st March 25, I can file this updated return or revised return, right? However, I can only file this return for offering additional income. अगर मेरा income कम करना है या मुझे कोई loss claim करना है, तो मैं ये window exercise नहीं कर सकता. This is only for paying additional tax and not for getting refund. Also, such return cannot be filed if assessment has been initiated or completed. So, अगर आपका assessment start हो गया है, अगर आपको notice आ गया है government से या department से, तो भी आप ये window का benefit नहीं ले सकते. Yes, this is not free service. You will have to pay additional cost or additional tax. Now that additional tax is 25% on the aggregate of the incremental tax and interest. So जो भी आपका incremental tax and interest आता है, मतलब जो additional tax आएगा, उस पे आपको एडिशनली 25% पे करना है इफ दिस इज फाइल्ड विद इन 1 ईयर। अगर ये 1 साल के बाद में आप फाइल करते हो तो आपको 25% नहीं, डबल 50% पे करना पड़ेगा। मतलब वॉट एवर इज योर एडिशनल लायबिलिटी, अज्यूमिंग मेरा ओरिजिनल टैक्स रिटर्न में लायबिलिटी था 10 लाख रुपया, नए टैक्स रिटर्न में मेरा लायबिलिटी आ रहा है 15 लाख रुपया इंक्लूडिंग इंटरेस्ट एक्सेट्रा, तो ये जो एडिशनल 5 लाख है उसका 25% मुझे पे करना पड़ेगा इफ आई पे इट विद इन 1 year. But if I do it after 1 year, then I have to pay 50% of this 5 lakhs in order to pay the in order to file this updated return. So this is about the updated return. So just to give you an example, this is the table. There is a window available for me to file belated return also. कि अगर मेरा नॉर्मल ड्यू डेट होता है 31st of July, 30th of September, 31st of July for individuals, 30th of September for companies, and for audit cases, and also 30th of November for the cases where we have transfer pricing or non-resident cases. So ये cases में भी मेरे पास एडिशनल टाइम लिमिट होता है। सो फॉर एग्जांपल असेसमेंट ईयर 21-22 का, अज्यूमिंग कोविड नहीं है और कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है या कोई एक्सटेंशन नहीं है, आइडियली the due date would have been 31st of December 21 as the extended due date for belated return as well as revised return. Revised return क्या है, मैंने रिटर्न फाइल कर दिया बट मुझे कोई रिवीजन करना है। नाउ दिस रिवीजन कैन बी अ डाउनवर्ड रिवीजन ऑल्सो। यहाँ पे मैं लॉस भी क्लेम कर सकता हूँ, यहाँ पे मैं एडिशनल एक्सपेंसेस भी क्लेम कर सकता हूँ, बट अभी जो हम देख रहे हैं दैट इज अपडेटेड रिटर्न विच इज द न्यू सेक्शन 139(8)(a। वहां पे मैं डाउनवर्ड रिवीजन नहीं कर सकता, इट इज ओनली फॉर अपवर्ड रिवीजन। तो इसका ड्यू डेट क्या हो जाएगा, 31st March 2024। सो दिस इज जस्ट एन एग्जांपल टू एक्सप्लेन द प्रोविजंस ऑफ अपडेटेड रिटर्न। नाउ एज आई सेड अपवर्ड रिटर्न, राइट, अपवर्ड रिटर्न मतलब क्या होगा, इफ द रिटर्न इज अ लॉस रिटर्न देन आई विल नॉट बी एबल टू फाइल दिस अपडेटेड रिटर्न। सेकेंड, इफ इट हैज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ रिड्यूसिंग माई टैक्स लायबिलिटी, right, then also I will not be able to file this return. If it results in refund or increases the refund due to the due on the basis of original or revised return already filed, तो उस केस में भी मैं अपडेटेड रिटर्न फाइल नहीं कर सकता। द बॉटम लाइन ऑफ ऑल दीज 3 बुलेट्स इज कि मुझे एडिशनल लायबिलिटी पे करना होगा तो ही मैं अपडेटेड रिटर्न भर सकता हूं, अदरवाइज आई कैन नॉट फाइल अपडेटेड रिटर्न, एज सिंपल एज दैट। नेक्स्ट इज सर्च एंड सर्वे केसेस। अगर आपके ऑफिस में या प्रीमाइसिस में सर्च सर्वे हुआ है तो भी मैं ये बेनिफिट या ये ऑप्शन नहीं ऑप्ट कर सकता। आई वोंट से इट एज अ बेनिफिट बट इट इज अ विंडो और अ फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल। असेसमेंट, रीअसेसमेंट, रिवीजन इज पेंडिंग और इज कंप्लीटेड। सो अगर इस साल का असेसमेंट हो गया है, रीअसेसमेंट हो गया है या रिवीजन हो गया है या चालू भी है तो भी मैं ये विंडो का बेनिफिट नहीं ले सकता। पीएमएलए दैट इज ब्लैक मनी and money laundering act cases, because those are severe offenses, so in those cases I will not be able to opt for this window. Information received from overseas jurisdiction, अगर आपका कोई फॉरेन सोर्स इनकम है, आपने यहाँ पे रिपोर्ट नहीं किया है और फॉरेन कंट्री से वो रिपोर्ट या इंफॉर्मेशन गवर्नमेंट के पास आया है आपके रिटर्न फाइल करने से पहले, तो भी आप ये विंडो का बेनिफिट नहीं ले सकते। लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, प्रोसिक्यूशन, अगर आप पे कोई प्रोसिक्यूशन चल रहा है, टीडीएस प्रोसिक्यूशन या एनी अदर प्रोसिक्यूशन, तो वहां पे भी आप ये अपडेटेड रिटर्न का बेनिफिट नहीं ले सकते। This is a welcome step in a way. Chartered accountants and advocates may not be happy with this amendment, but what they are trying to say is that filing of repetitive appeals before tribunal and high court may be deferred by the tax department on an identical issue which is pending before the jurisdictional high court or Supreme Court. So basically, just to give you an example, assuming a question of law has arisen in case of assessee, that is A1, and the question is Q1, and he has received a favorable order. For example, मैंने first level of appeal file किया, that is CIT appeal, and my CIT appeal is favorable in my favor, right? Department के favor में नहीं है, मेरे favor में है। Assuming in case of अनदर असेसी, किसी और असेसी के केस में आइडेंटिकल क्वेश्चन है जो कि हाई कोर्ट, ज्यूरिसडिक्शनल हाई कोर्ट में या सुप्रीम कोर्ट में पेंडिंग है। व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट मुंबई, बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट में अगर कोई सिमिलर मैटर पेंडिंग है किसी और असेसी का भी, मेरा ही होना जरूरी नहीं है, किसी और का भी, तो यहाँ पे डिपार्टमेंट क्या कर सकता है, दे कैन सीक टू नॉट टू फाइल एन अपील, राइट. तो कोलेगियम इज नथिंग बट टू कमिश्नर्स कमिंग टुगेदर, दैट इज A1 का कमिश्नर और A2 का कमिश्नर, दोनों डिस्कस करेंगे कि क्या ये क्वेश्चन सेम है या सिमिलर है जो कि हाईकोर्ट में पेंडिंग है, कैन वी रिलाई ऑन दिस जजमेंट. इफ दे बिलीव दैट दिस इज सो, then they may invoke this provision of 158AB and say that we will not file the appeal against this issue unless the matter is decided by the jurisdictional high court. जब तक हाई कोर्ट का डिसीजन नहीं आ जाता हम अपील फाइल नहीं करेंगे, राइट. एंड यू विल हैव टू ऑब्वियसली सीक द परमिशन और अप्रूवल और एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ द असेसी A1. अगर फॉर एग्जांपल A1 के केस में आप डिसाइड करते हो कि आपको अपील फाइल नहीं करना है, सो आपको A1 का भी एक्सेप्टेंस लेना पड़ेगा कि यस, डोंट फाइल एन अपील, आई एम ओके विद द सेम. ठीक है. सो दिस इज द प्रोसीजर प्रिस्क्राइब्ड अंडर 158AB. Faceless, now since past 1 year, this has been the buzzword as far as the assessment is concerned, that department wants or the government wants faceless assessments, no interaction between the tax authorities, and you will not know who your tax officer is who is passing the assessment order. So last year they brought in an amendment, and there was one section called 144B which said that the protocol has to be followed. Protocol क्या है कि आपको अगर कोई एडिशन करना है या आपको कोई इनकम बढ़ाना है एसएससी का असेसमेंट में, देन फर्स्ट यू विल हैव टू इशू अ शो कॉज नोटिस, सेकंड यू विल हैव टू गिव अ ड्राफ्ट ऑर्डर टू द एसएससी, and you have to give them an opportunity of being heard on both these aspects. But practically what has happened is the department has not done this. They have directly passed the final order. शो कॉज भी नहीं दिया है काफी केसेस में, और काफी केसेस में ड्राफ्ट ऑर्डर भी पास नहीं किया है. So there were many high court writ petitions being filed across the country. In fact, if I give you my own example, we had filed around 15-20 writ petitions, and all the orders were quashed or set aside by various honorable high courts. So this is where the department comes into, or the severity comes into picture, and they say no, वो जो हमने सेक्शन लाया था, that section has been deleted now. वो सेक्शन बोलता था कि if this procedure is not followed, then the orders passed will be considered to be non-est or void. So it means वो order को ही non-est बोल देते थे, या वो order को ही as per the section that order was not valid at all. But now they are saying, because of all these high court judgments, now they are saying no, we remove that section, that is not applicable now. So what happens to those judgments? Fortunately, those judgments will survive, because at that point in time the section was there. So this is the relevant amendment in terms of faceless. Then we have various units, which is assessment unit, verification unit, review unit, and technical unit, which will be coordinated through NFSC center only, that is National Faceless Assessment Center. Personal hearing shall be allowed. Now they are saying it, personal hearing shall be allowed. पहले था assessee मांगेगा तो देने का, but now they are saying you will allow video conferencing hearings. Last but not the least, for international tax cases which are out of faceless regime, they will be out of faceless regime for a couple of more years, and they will be extended till 31st of March 2024. So इनका hearing आपका jurisdictional assessing officer के पास ही होगा, faceless में नहीं होगा, for 2 more years. So as I said, key issues: if the procedure is not followed, then the orders can now be challenged. Can we challenge it now? Looks difficult. Yes, we can still challenge, provided we challenge it before this becomes an act. As of now, this is just a bill. This is yet to be approved by the parliament, both houses of parliament, and the presidential assent. What happens to the orders already quashed? Obviously, that judgments remain. Nothing will happen to those. What happens to orders where writ petition is pending to be disposed? Again, here the courts will take a look at it, and they will say that at the time of passing the order, this was the law. So therefore, you have to follow this law. That is my views. Reassessment, again, no clarification. Reassessment maybe there were various issues, like new section was brought in under section 148A, which was for all the reassessments to be done from 1st of April 21. However, the department continued to issue notices in the old section. Fortunately, they have not done anything under the act for this. No amendment, no retrospective amendment, etc. And there were many, again on this also various writ petitions are filed, and the high courts have held that these notices are invalid. However, what they have done is they have expanded the scope of reassessment beyond 3 years to include expenditure in respect of a transaction or in relation to an event or occasion and any entry in the books of account. So in all these 3 cases, अगर कोई transaction related expenditure है या कोई event या occasion का expenditure है या books में कोई entry पाया गया है search survey में या whatever whenever, then in that case the reassessment beyond can be conducted beyond 3 years. Beyond 3 years मतलब 10 साल तक reassessment हो सकता है in all these cases. So effectively they are widening the base or widening the scope of reassessment. Information with the AO for basis of reassessment to include audit objection, receipt of information from treaty network, etc. So audit objection मिला तो भी department reassessment कर सकता है, which they have clarified now under the law. Next is transfer pricing officers का अगर जो order होता है for non-resident cases or for international tax cases. So earlier there was no provision for 263 being covered for the TPO orders. Now they are widening the scope. 263 is nothing but revision by commissioner for matters which are prejudicial to the revenue, that is prejudicial to the government and not prejudicial to the assessee. So ye cases mein now they are also subject to revision, and the AO will have to modify the assessment order within 2 months from the end of the month when they receive this revised order. Powers have been given to CIT appeal, that is first level of appellate authority को penalty proceedings initiate करने का additional power दिया गया है, wherein they can also initiate penalty for false entry, under undisclosed income, etc. Provision introduced to enable resident payers to claim. This is more from the non-resident taxation perspective, but still for the sake of completeness I have included it. So when you make a payment to non-resident and there is a net of tax arrangement, matlab suppose the contract is for 100 rupees and it has been decided कि सामने वाले को मैं 100 रुपए दूंगा, TDS इंडियन पार्टी बेयर करेगा. तो उस केस में अगर मैंने ज्यादा TDS पे कर दिया है तो पहले कोई विंडो या मैकेनिज्म अवेलेबल नहीं था to claim refund. Now that is available, and if the officer denies you the refund, you can file an appeal before the CIT appeal for claiming that particular refund. Business deductions and computation में कुछ amendments है. So there were few high court rulings. As I said, this budget is all about various favorable rulings being overturned by the CBDT or by the government. This is one of them. कि इनकम टैक्स में सरचार्ज और सेस भी लगता है. सो द डेफिनेशन ऑफ इनकम टैक्स नेवर इंक्लूडेड सेस अर्लियर इन 48(2) आल्सो. सो द वेरियस असेसीज क्लेम्ड एजुकेशन सेस एज अ डिडक्टेबल एक्सपेंसेस. थोड़ा हटके सोच के उन्होंने एजुकेशन सेस को क्लेम किया एज अ डिडक्शन, एंड फॉर्चुनेटली और अनफॉर्चुनेटली हाई कोर्ट्स ने, वेरियस हाई कोर्ट्स, एक ही हाई कोर्ट नहीं मल्टीपल हाई कोर्ट्स ने ये एक्सपेंस को अलाउ किया, सेइंग दैट सेस इज एन अलाउएबल एक्सपेंस. Now the department or the CBDT is bringing a retrospective amendment and saying that ये cess or surcharge is a part and parcel of the income tax and they will not be allowed to you as a deduction. So जो भी आपको पुराना भी मिल गया रहेगा based on the law at that point in time, probably the department will try to challenge that also. So this is a retrospective amendment. दूसरा amendment. Yeah.
Yomesh, now here they say they want to clarify.
Yeah.
Now after so many high court judgment,
Correct.
is there any scope for clarification?
That is what the issue is, and they are going to clarify it retrospectively.
Yeah.
So therefore, the question is, what happens to all those judgments which are already been passed, right?
Correct.
So,
correct.
For all those judgments, I firmly believe कि उसको कुछ नहीं हो सकता है, even if the department tries to reopen those cases, etc. But once you have a high court order, you cannot reverse that high court order after the law is being amended after that high court order, and that too retrospectively. It will be a contempt of court.
Under the garb of clarification.
Yes, under the garb of clarification. But yes, for all those cases which are not before the high court, I am afraid that this claim will go away now and they will not be able to claim this benefit, or they will not be able to claim this advantage going forward. Next amendment is on offense or prohibition under any law. So here a couple of aspects have been added or modified. पहले क्या होता था कि if you are having any offense in India, for example, non-complying with any law, and you are going for compounding, or you are paying any fine, etc. If it is for contravention of any law or compounding of any offense, then you are not eligible to claim that particular expense as a deduction. Then you are not eligible to claim that expense as a deduction. Just a second. Papa guy. Yeah, sorry. What I was saying is offenses or any prohibition, any contravention, penalty or compounding paid in India, that was not allowed. Now they are extending it to outside India also. So for example, if you pay any fine, penalty or any compounding of offense outside India in any foreign country, even those expenses will not be allowed. That is point number 1 and point number 3. The second bullet is basically providing perquisite benefit acceptance, which is violation of law, regulation or guideline. Now this is specifically brought in for the pharma sector. Pharma sector में क्या होता था कि many people were, making payments to doctors or medical practitioners, like free hotel stay, free foreign trips, or even free gift items, etc. So this is particularly to cover those aspects. And there were few judgments of various high courts. Again, as I said, कि यहाँ पे भी फेवरेबल हाई कोर्ट जजमेंट को ओवररूल करने के लिए ये अमेंडमेंट लाया गया है कि ऑल दीज एक्सपेंसेस विल नॉट बी अलाउड अंडर सेक्शन 37. Taxation of VDA, cryptocurrencies, which is most discussed nowadays in media and also otherwise. VDA is nothing but cryptocurrency, crypto assets, NFTs, that is non-fungible tokens, and other digital assets. So effectively, any currencies except the legal currencies of India or overseas, which is defined under FEMA, usko chhod ke baaki sab digital assets are crypto assets or virtual digital assets. They will be taxed at the highest rate of 30%. They will be taxed at the highest rate of 30%. और अगर आपने कोई क्रिप्टो एसेट या क्रिप्टो करेंसी बेचा है तो आपको पूरा 30% पे टैक्स हो जाएगा. इट विल बी कंसिडर्ड एज गुड एज विनिंग फ्रॉम लॉटरीज, हॉर्स रेसेस एक्सेट्रा. उस कैटेगरी में इसको लाया गया है बिकॉज दे आर नॉट अलाउइंग यू एनी एक्सपेंसेस और डिडक्शन. Only cost of acquisition is allowed as a deduction. Now, what do you mean by cost of acquisition? That is not yet defined. No set off or carry forward losses. So, for example, अगर आपको एक क्रिप्टो में लॉस है और किसी और जगह पे इनकम है, आप उसको सेट ऑफ नहीं कर सकते, ना ही आप उसको कैरी फॉरवर्ड कर सकते हो. सो अगर आपको कोई लॉस हुआ है क्रिप्टो एसेट्स में, दैट विल बी योर sunk cost, that will never be allowed to you as a deduction or an expense or set off. Also, gift of cryptocurrencies, that is, if I am giving crypto to anyone without any consideration or with inadequate consideration, then also it will be subject to tax in India at the rate of again 30%. TDS is also applicable on VDS, on transfer of VDS at the rate of 1% from 1st of July 2022. So if you are buying any cryptocurrencies, then you are liable to deduct tax at source at the rate of 1%. अगर 10,000 से ज्यादा है तो टीडीएस एप्लीकेबल होगा. अगेन फॉर इंडिविजुअल एचयूएफ जिनका टर्नओवर 1 करोड़ से कम है, उनके लिए लिमिट है 50,000 रुपया. सो फॉर नॉर्मल एसएससीज लिमिट इज 10,000. फॉर इंडिविजुअल एचयूएफ whose turnover is less than 1 crore, उनके लिए the limit is 50,000. Person liable for TDS to ensure that the tax has been paid if no cash payment or cash component is insufficient. So for example, अगर मैंने just an hypothetical example, not a practical situation, but still, if I have purchased a flat and instead of giving cash or check payment to the builder or to the party, I give him a cryptocurrency. So that effectively is an exchange or a barter. In that case also the TDS liability arises, but if there is no cash component involved here, so I cannot deduct TDS. और if the cash component is less than the TDS amount, तो ये दोनों केस में क्या होगा कि आपको इंश्योर करना है कि सामने वाले ने टैक्स अप्रोप्रिएटली पे कर दिया है गवर्नमेंट को. It is your responsibility to look that the taxes have been paid by the other party to the government. Otherwise, you will be held responsible as defaulter under this section. Clear? सेक्शन 14A ये एक अमेंडमेंट है जो एज ऑफ नाउ इफ आई सी आज की तारीख में रेलेवेंट नहीं है, बट अगेन दिस इज जस्ट डन टू undo or reverse the decisions of the high courts where they have said 14A क्या है कि any interest expense or any expense in relation to earning exempt income. So exempt income के लिए अगर आपने कोई for example dividend was exempt earlier, तो उसके लिए अगर मैंने कोई इंटरेस्ट एक्सपेंस किया है या और कोई एक्सपेंस इनकर किया है वो मुझे डिसअलाउ करना पड़ता था. व्हाट आर्ग्यूमेंट्स पीपल वर टेकिंग इज दैट दिस इज टू बी रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ माय डिविडेंड इनकम. अगर मुझे कोई डिविडेंड इनकम मिला ही नहीं है या एग्जेम्प्ट इनकम मिला ही नहीं है तो कोई डिसअलाउंस होना नहीं चाहिए, which was accepted by various high courts across the country. So now to overcome that judgment, अभी आज की तारीख में तो डिविडेंड भी टैक्सेबल हो गया है. So there is no question of 14A disallowance today, but still the government is bringing in this amendment to cover all those cases which are pending before the court now and try to capture those cases. As I said, this amendment is effective 1st of April 22, but the way it is worded, they are saying it is clarificatory in nature. So department may try. If you ask me personally, this will not be applicable retrospectively, but the department may try to apply this retrospectively. Conversion of interest payable on an existing liability into debenture. अभी ये केस में क्या होता था कि people used to convert that interest into debentures or share capital. Yeah, if I am not able to pay the interest, what I used to do is I used to convert it into a loan or debenture, and people used to claim it as a deduction under section 43B. Now government is saying nothing doing, ये आपको डिडक्शन नहीं मिलेगा because ये एक्चुअल पेमेंट हुआ ही नहीं, आपने इसको लायबिलिटी एक लायबिलिटी को दूसरे लायबिलिटी में कन्वर्ट कर लिया. So therefore this will not be allowed to you as a deduction. This will be allowed only when you actually repay it, when you actually pay it to the other party, to the lender. No set off allowed for any losses or unabsorbed depreciation. Now this will be relevant for the builders and developers जहाँ पे समझो सर्च सीजर हुआ है, सर्च हुआ है, सर्वे हुआ है. In those cases, what people used to do is they used to offer whatever is being seized during the, be it cash or be it inventory or additional stock etc. वो ऑफर करते थे एज बिजनेस इनकम, एंड दे यूज्ड टू क्लेम कि मेरा काफी सारा पुराना लॉसेस पड़ा है, ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड लॉसेस पड़ा है, उसके सामने इसको सेट ऑफ कर दो. राइट? सो देयरफॉर दे हैव ब्रॉट इन दिस अमेंडमेंट कि आपको इस पर्टिकुलर इनकम से कोई सेट ऑफ नहीं मिलेगा. राइट? अगर सर्च सीजर में कोई इनकम आपका पकड़ा गया है सो उसके अगेंस्ट में आपको कोई सेट ऑफ नहीं मिलेगा, वो उस पे आपको टैक्स पे करना ही पड़ेगा. सो दिस इज दैट अमेंडमेंट एंड मे बी रेलेवेंट फॉर बिल्डर्स डेवलपर्स जहाँ पे सर्च सर्वे होते रहता है. दिस इज ऑल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट for the builder developer community because loans section 68 में जो disallow होता है, requirement of explaining nature, source and source of source is extended to any loan borrowing taken by the assessor. Now पहले क्या होता था section 68 में if I have taken any loan, I need to justify कि ये loan मैंने किससे लिया है. I used to provide name, address, PAN number of the person. And if required, the department or the officer can cross check with that particular person and get a confirmation कि वो उस इंसान ने सच में लोन दिया है या नहीं दिया है. Now they are going a step ahead or a step further and saying कि आपने तो अपना सोर्स बता दिया, आपके सोर्स का क्या सोर्स है वो भी हमको बताओ. So they are tracking entire chain of transactions कि आपके सोर्स का सोर्स क्या है, उसके पास पैसा किधर से आया. That also is something which you are required to disclose. अभी आप अपने लेंडर को जाके बोलोगे कि आप पैसा किधर से लाए, practically you tell me whether he will be disclosing that information to you, from where did he get that income or from where did he get that amount. Practically difficult as a borrower for me. मैं एक कर्जदार होके लेंडर को जाके बोलूं बॉस तू पैसा किधर से लाया, will he be comfortable sharing me that information? Practically the answer is no. But here the income tax or the CBDT wants me कि नहीं तुम वो भी लेके आओ, otherwise ये हम आपको अलाउ नहीं करेंगे. क्या अलाउ नहीं करेंगे? This there will be an addition of 68, section 68. It means that this loan will be treated as undisclosed or rather unexplained credit in your books of account, and it will be subject to a tax at the rate of 60%. Again, plus interest tax, 60% tax rate plus interest penalty etc. So अगर आप interest penalty add करोगे तो effectively tax rate हो जाता है 87.5%. So even if it is a genuine loan, if I am not able to justify or explain the source of the lender, मैंने मेरा तो सोर्स बोल दिया कि भाई मैंने XYZ पर्सन से लोन लिया है, बट दे आर सेइंग नहीं, आप XYZ को भी उसके पास से भी सोर्स लेके आओ कि आप कहां से पैसा लाए, राइट? So even in case of assuming I have taken a loan from a nationalized bank, ठीक है? So practically how will I be in a position to go back to bank, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया है या बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा है या बैंक ऑफ इंडिया है, कि भाई आप ये पैसा किधर से लाए? Will the bank also be able to identify that this amount is given from which receipt? So answer is practically तो ये possible है ही नहीं. So the question is, even in such cases, whether department will go ahead and make additions. In fact, I have seen practically recently, loan has been taken from listed banks. Right? So that also are added in few of the cases. Those also are added under section 68 as undisclosed or undisclosed income or unexplained credit. So वहां पे तो ये प्रोविजन था भी नहीं, फिर भी एडिशन किया. अभी तो उनको एक और एडिशनल हथियार मिल गया. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आपने डायरेक्टर से लोन लिया है, शेयर होल्डर से लोन लिया है, इंडिविजुअल शेयर होल्डर से लोन लिया है या डायरेक्टर से लोन लिया है. सो उसमें आपका सोर्स आपको पता है, शेयर होल्डर है या डायरेक्टर है, बट आपको उनका भी सोर्स जानना है कि वह उनके पास पैसा किधर से आया.
હું હમણાં જરા એક મીટિંગમાં છું, કાલે વાત કરીએ આપણે.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. New proviso inserted कि आपको वो डिटेल सबमिट भी करना है और AO को सेटिस्फाई भी करना है, राइट? AO finds the same satisfactory. AO has to be satisfied with this information. If he is not satisfied, then he will do the addition in 68.
Hello.
So as I said, if the companies or the assessee is required to determine the source of borrowings in the hands of the lender, the answer is yes. They will have to do that. Last but not the least, pertinent to review and analyze the borrowing in the books of accounts. अभी आप ऐसा बोलोगे कि ये प्रोविजन तो आज से एप्लीकेबल है, राइट? मैंने तो लोन पहले ही लिया हुआ है. But the question is, if that loan is still lying in my balance sheet, ठीक है? आज की तारीख में मैंने वो लोन नहीं लिया है, लोन 1-2 साल पहले लिया है, बट अगर मेरे बैलेंस शीट में आउटस्टैंडिंग भी है तो भी ऑफिसर विल ही कैन वेरी वेल आस्क कि ये लोन किधर से आया, एंड इवन फॉर द पास्ट लोन्स ही कैन गो बैक एंड से बॉस इसका सोर्स क्या है, सामने वाले का सोर्स क्या है, एक्सेट्रा. सो दिस डज नॉट मीन एनी लोन टेकन आफ्टर 1st April. This can also impact the borrowings done prior to 1st April 22. So that is how draconian provision this is. Again, another draconian provision which may be relevant in our sector also, 194R. Tax deductible on any benefit or perquisite, whether convertible in money or not, arising from business or exercise of a profession. Now, for example, I am an architect or I am a consultant, okay, and I am providing consultancy services to a builder or a developer. So instead of paying me in cash, what he does is he gives me a flat. Instead of paying me a cash, ऐसा कोई करता नहीं है, just an example, he pays me or he gives me a flat or a small commercial property instead of my fees. तो इसमें तो कोई TDS वगैरह आएगा नहीं, because as such कोई cash payment fees का है नहीं, तो 194J वगैरह लगेगा नहीं. So therefore they are bringing in this amendment 194R कि अगर कोई perquisite in relation to business income, अभी मेरे लिए ये business income हो गया as a chartered accountant or as an architect, this is in relation to exercise of my profession, so this becomes my business income. Therefore in these cases they are saying if the amount exceeds 20,000 in a financial year, this will be subject to 10% of the value. So अगर मुझे कोई फ्लैट मिला है तो फ्लैट का मार्केट वैल्यू का 10% मुझे टीडीएस सामने वाले को डिडक्ट करना पड़ेगा और गवर्नमेंट को पे करना पड़ेगा, राइट। अगर कैश पेमेंट नहीं है, एज आई सेड ये एग्जांपल में कोई कैश पेमेंट नहीं है, पूरा काइंड में है, दैट इज फ्लैट। सो वहां पे जैसे हमने ऊपर भी देखा था क्रिप्टो करेंसीज में कि यू विल हैव टू ensure that the other party pays the taxes, to the government. Now this amendment is effective from 1st of July 2022. Again, there are serious issues.
Vyomesh, now maximum fees will be received in this kind of transaction only. Looking at recession,
Yeah.
particularly
Yeah,
real
in our
estate.
sector. Correct. So the issues here is how do you value this benefit or a perquisite? What could be constituted as a business perquisite? Now, whether this will be constituted as business perquisite, that also is a challenge or a question. Practical challenge on deductibility of TDS on account of person receiving the benefit and the same person offering the corresponding income. मतलब मैं इनकम भी बता रहा हूं, ठीक है, मैं सामने मेरा इनकम बता रहा हूं और सामने ये टीडीएस भी आ रहा है, राइट। सो on one hand I am required to pay the tax also. Will I be able to claim the credit of this TDS? The answer is yes, I will be able to claim the credit, but effectively ये सामने वाले का इनकम भी होएगा, राइट, ये सामने वाले का इनकम भी होएगा, सामने वाले का एज इन जिसको फ्लैट मिल रहा है उसका इनकम भी होएगा। सो ही विल आल्सो हैव टू ऑफर इट टू टैक्स। आई कैन नॉट से कि ये मुझे मिला है तो इस पे मैं टैक्स नहीं भरूंगा, दिस इज माय बिजनेस इनकम, तो ये जो भी फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू हो इफेक्टिवली टैक्स ही होगा मेरे हाथ में अंडर सेक्शन 28 सबसेक्शन 6। सो उसमें टीडीएस भी आएगा और टैक्सेबिलिटी भी आएगा। फॉर एग्जांपल a few procedural amendments in TDS, higher rate of TDS. Now last year there was an amendment ki if you have not filed the return of income then the TDS will be paid at the higher rate and you need to check for the past 2 years कि पिछले 2 सालों का रिटर्न भरा है क्या नहीं सामने वाले पार्टी ने। अगर नहीं भरा है तो मुझे टैक्स उनका डिडक्ट करना है, टीडीएस करना है एट अ हायर रेट। नाउ दे आर चेंजिंग दिस 2 years to 1 year कि मुझे पिछले 2 साल का नहीं देखना है, अभी सिर्फ 1 ही साल का देखना है, तो थोड़ा काम कम हो गया। पेनल्टी फॉर फर्निशिंग फ्यू रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट्स, एसएफटीज एक्सेट्रा, पहले पेनल्टी था 100 रुपीज पर डे, इसको 5 गुना बढ़ा के कर दिया है 500 पर डे। प्रोसिक्यूशन प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू सेकंड और सब्सिक्वेंट ऑफेंस एक्सटेंडेड टू टीसीएस, पहले सिर्फ टीडीएस को एप्लीकेबल था ये कि सपोज मैंने टीडीएस में कोई ऑफेंस किया या टीडीएस नहीं काटा है, सो अगर दूसरी बार हो गया तो मेरे पे प्रोसिक्यूशन लग सकता है। दिस वाज नॉट एप्लीकेबल टू टीसीएस अर्लियर, दैट इज टैक्स कलेक्शन एट सोर्स। Now this is applicable to TCS also. Dividend from foreign companies, पहले 15% concessional rate था, now they are saying कि आगे से आपको 15% नहीं मिलेगा, आपका नॉर्मल जो भी टैक्स रेट है उस पे आपको फॉरेन डिविडेंड भी पे करना पड़ेगा। लास्ट वन इज इनकॉन्सिक्वेंशियल, दैट इज स्पेसिफिक टू मीडिया इंडस्ट्री, अपने लिए रेलेवेंट नहीं है। एडिशनल इम्पेटस ऑन IFSC, again this may not be that relevant but for the sake of completeness I have included it. IFSC में अगर कोई शिपिंग यूनिट फॉरेन कंपनी शिपिंग बिजनेस का है और वो IFSC में सेटअप करता है तो उसको एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा। अर्लियर दिस वाज एलिजिबल फॉर एयरक्राफ्ट, नाउ दिस इज एक्सटेंडेड टू शिपिंग। बोनस स्ट्रिपिंग indirectly related to our sector because it covers REIT, InvIT and AIFs. So इसमें क्या होता था कि सपोज इफ शेयर्स के केस में अगर मैं शेयर लेता हूं जस्ट बिफोर द डेट ऑफ बोनस, दैट इज विद इन 3 months ऑफ द बोनस, मुझे पता चला कि ये कंपनी का बोनस आने वाला है, तो आई परचेज द शेयर्स ऑफ दैट कंपनी नोइंग कि बोनस आने वाला है जस्ट बिफोर द रिकॉर्ड डेट, एंड देन आई गेट द बोनस एंड व्हाट आई डू इज आई सेल द ओरिजिनल शेयर्स। अभी बोनस के बाद क्या होगा, कंपनी का शेयर्स का प्राइस कम हो जाएगा, राइट, शेयर का प्राइस अगर कम हो जाएगा, सो व्हाट आई डू इज बोनस के बाद जो भी ओरिजिनल शेयर्स है वो मैं बेच दूंगा, I will sell it at a loss and book a loss, और जो बोनस शेयर्स है उसको मैं रखूंगा फॉर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड से लॉन्ग टर्म होने तक, एंड देन आई विल सेल दैट एंड आई विल क्लेम दिस लॉस अगेंस्ट द प्रॉफिट ऑफ दैट बोनस शेयर्स एंड क्लेम इट एज अ डिडक्शन और अ सेट ऑफ। सो दिस वाज बोनस स्ट्रिपिंग, इसको बोलते हैं टेक्निकली। दिस वाज देयर फॉर म्यूचुअल फंड्स एंड शेयर्स, बट नाउ दे आर ब्रिंगिंग इट फॉर InvIT and REIT का units also. So that is a new amendment. मैंने examples भी दिया हुआ है, examples are self-explanatory. In the interest of the time, I am not going deep into it because This may not be applicable specifically to the developers, but this is only for the InvIT and REIT cases. ट्रस्ट के केसेस में कुछ अमेंडमेंट है जो क्विकली आई विल गो थ्रू. दिस इज द लास्ट सेगमेंट. सो व्हाट आर द अमेंडमेंट्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ ट्रस्ट. अभी ट्रस्ट के केस में क्या होता है दैट वॉट एवर इनकम और द कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस दे रिसीव दे हैव टू पे 85% टू शो इट एज देयर एप्लीकेशन, अदरवाइज वो इनकम टैक्स हो जाएगा. अभी लोग क्या करते थे या कुछ ट्रस्ट क्या करते थे, दे फॉलो मर्केंटाइल सिस्टम ऑफ अकाउंटिंग और वो अमाउंट एक्सपेंस को बुक करके दे शो इट एज पेएबल इन देयर बैलेंस शीट, राइट. सो उसको एक्सपेंस पेएबल करके प्रोविजन बुक्स में बता देते थे एंड दे यूज्ड टू क्लेम इट एज एक्सपेंस. अभी वो पे होगा नहीं होगा बाद में देखा जाएगा. दैट वाज द एटीट्यूड. नाउ द गवर्नमेंट हैज रियलाइज्ड दिस मिस्चिफ एंड व्हाट दे आर सेइंग इज नथिंग डूइंग. आप ये पैसा एक्चुअली पे करोगे तभी वो एप्लीकेशन गिना जाएगा. अगर ये पैसा आपने पे नहीं किया है, इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ योर मेथड ऑफ अकाउंटिंग, आप मेथड ऑफ अकाउंटिंग या कैश सिस्टम फॉलो कर रहे हो या मर्केंटाइल सिस्टम फॉलो कर रहे हो, डज नॉट मैटर अनलेस यू एक्चुअली पे दिस अमाउंट. जैसे इनकम टैक्स में 43B है फॉर गवर्नमेंट पेमेंट्स. अभी ट्रस्ट के लिए सभी पेमेंट के लिए इन शॉर्ट 43B जैसा प्रोविजन आ गया है कि आपको जब तक आप पे नहीं करोगे ये आपका एप्लीकेशन नहीं गिना जाएगा. Second amendment is for voluntary contribution for repairs can be treated as corpus. अभी इसमें क्या होता है, corpus becomes my capital receipt और corpus के लिए ये 85% spend वो सब जरूरी नहीं होता है. So therefore it can be said that corpus is not taxable indirectly. So therefore what they are saying is अगर मुझे कोई पैसा मिला है for repairs, this is specifically for all those trusts which are running temples, mosques, gurudwara, church, etc. and other places mentioned in 80G2B. सो उनको ये ऑप्शन दिया गया है कि इफ यू आर रिसीविंग एनी फंड और एनी अमाउंट टुवर्ड्स दिस कॉर्पस यू कैन ट्रीट इट एज अ पार्ट ऑफ योर कॉर्पस प्रोवाइडेड दिस इज अप्लाइड ओनली फॉर दैट पर्पस. मतलब रिपेयर का है तो आप वो उसको रिपेयर के लिए ही यूज करोगे एंड इट डज नॉट अप्लाई टू कॉर्पस फॉर मेकिंग कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन और डोनेशन टू एनी पर्सन. अगर मैं किसी और ट्रस्ट को पैसा दे देता हूं तो ये मुझे बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा. Such corpus is maintained as separately identifiable. मतलब earmark fund होना चाहिए. Corpus for repairs, for example, that is a earmark fund or a earmark corpus. Last but not the least, this corpus amount has to be deposited in the specific modes, that is fixed deposit, etc., which are specifically mentioned in section 11, subsection 5. So this is the amendment in relation to voluntary contribution for repairs. Then earlier, if you are not, if you are violating the provisions, of section 10, 11, 12, 13, etc., then these expenditure were not allowed to you as a deduction. यहाँ पे a relaxation is given कि even if you don't follow these provisions, you will still be allowed these expenses provided these conditions are satisfied. सबसे पहला condition है कि ये revenue payment होना चाहिए, revenue expenditure होना चाहिए, capital expenditure नहीं होना चाहिए. कंडीशंस ये है कि अगेन ये कॉर्पस के लिए नहीं होना चाहिए. देन इट शुड नॉट बी आउट ऑफ बोरोइंग, इट शुड बी फ्रॉम कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस ओनली. एंड डेप्रिसिएशन और एनी एसेट शुड नॉट बी हैव बीन क्लेम्ड एज अ डिडक्शन. सो इफेक्टिवली ये मैंने पहले डिडक्शन क्लेम नहीं किया होना चाहिए. ऑब्वियसली देयर कैन नॉट बी डबल डिडक्शन. लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, सच एक्सपेंडिचर इज नॉट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एनी कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन और डोनेशन टू एनी अदर पर्सन. एज आई सेड, एक्चुअल खर्चा होना चाहिए, एक्चुअल खर्चा होना चाहिए, ना कि मैंने किसी और ट्रस्ट को दे दिया. Of course, provisions of section 40A, that is TDS, and restriction on cash payment of 40A3 and 40A3A will apply. So that is there. Last amendment is basically books of accounts are required to be maintained now mandatorily. पहले क्या होता था, फॉर्म 10B भर देते थे काफी ट्रस्ट और बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट मेंटेन नहीं करते थे. Now they have brought this amendment and said that books of accounts are compulsory for all the trusts. Last but not the least, penalty, 100% penalty and 200% in case of repeated violation. So अगर ट्रस्ट किसी ट्रस्टी को अनड्यू बेनिफिट या अनड्यू एडवांटेज देता है या अनड्यू पेमेंट देता है तो उस केस में ट्रस्ट के हाथ में पेनल्टी लग जाएगा विच इज इक्वल टू 100%. पहली बार. दूसरी बार हुआ तो 200%, राइट? डबल द अमाउंट ऑफ बेनिफिट विच यू आर गिविंग टू द ट्रस्टी. Last slide, key takeaways from the budget. Basically, as I said, this is Invest in India budget and we are looking at more from the investments perspective and the infrastructure perspective. The government is setting up private equity and venture capital advisory committee, and of course we have many real estate, private equity funds and venture capital fund in India like Brookfield, etc. So this is from their perspective that these committees are being formed to listen to their grievances and listen to their issues which they are facing and address them. PSU disinvestment, we know that a target of 45,000 crores is there on in the pipeline for disinvestment. LIC and other couple of other oil and gas companies, the Navratna companies, are in the line for disinvestment this year. So we'll see the disinvestment happening. Startup exits, the IBC laws have been amended. Real estate flows, as I said, 48,000 crores have been allocated. अभी देखते हैं ये पैसा एक्चुअल में आता है नहीं आता है कैसे आता है. And 80 lakh new houses are coming in this financial year is what is being promised in the budget. Let's see if these promises are being kept. I think I'm just in time. So if you have any questions, we can take up the questions.
Yeah. Very nice presentation, Vyomesh.
Thank you, sir.
We will invite the question in chat box, whatever
sure.
questions are there. So at the end, we can take up.
Sure.
So thank you very much, Vyomesh. Now coming to the second topic, that is implication of the union budget on indirect taxation, which is increasing every month. So I think the January data, that was the highest GST collection. I think
1 crore 40 lakhs
1 crore 40
900.
1
lakhs,
crore
yeah.
40 lakhs.
Yeah, so that was the highest collection. So in the times to come, I'm sure this will go to 2 lakh crores collection in time to grow goes, because we are going towards the 5 trillion economy. So naturally our GST collection will increase. Now how it will increase, we have with us C. Asit Shah to explain all these things, and I'll request Dilip Bhai to briefly introduce C. Asit Bhai.
Yes, sure, Ashwin bhai. Thank you for the again opportunity to introduce. Right. First of all, my colleague C.A. Asit Shah, he is a very renowned GST expert, I can say, indirect tax expert, and he is a commerce graduate and FCA, DISA, and very closely connected with the profession. And he is always contributing in various capacity at various platforms. And one of the things which would like to share here is his well-renowned contribution about the referencer every year to the GST Practitioners Association. And he's also writing every month in the magazine published by the tax Chamber of Tax Consultant. And he's also contributed by way of co-authoring the book Technical Guide on the Annual Returns and Audit Report under GST, published by the WRC, and another publication by WRC on Sabka Vishwas Legacy Dispute Redressal Scheme 2019. And these are his contribution, and his focused and area is he's a corporate trainer on indirect taxation, and he is also a renowned faculty at the platform of Regional Institute of Controller and Auditor General of India, based at Mumbai. And then he is also awarded recognition in the profession for his best column writer in the year 2016-17 by Sales Tax Practitioners Association of Maharashtra. And he is also awarded best convener of law and representation by the Sales Tax Practitioners Association in the same year. And that was the year when he could be recognized by many of us as a reputed chartered accountant in the GST or GST sales tax, sales tax and service tax that time. Now, currently he is a chairman of Law and Representation Committee of the GST Practitioners Association of Maharashtra. Sir, with this, there is a long list of his contributions. But without taking much of the time, we are hungry to listen, because from the real estate sector, this sector is the place where I have noted lots of questions. I will request the convener of this meeting, please allow me to speak when time will come, because I have very practical questions for the members' benefit. And before that, I am handing over to Ashwin Bhai for henceforth.
Yeah. Thank you, Dilip Bhai. The questions are going to remain because real estate is a complex area, and GST has always been problematic for GST for real estate developer. So with this, I'll now request Asit Shah to start his session.
Yeah. Thank you, Dilip Bhai and Ashwin Bhai both, and dignitaries of all the three associations for providing me an opportunity to present my views on the budget 2022 proposals which has been provided. So friends, just a sec. Ashwin Bhai, you have to make me the host so that I can share my screen. Ashwin Bhai?
Okay, I am calling him, right?
Yeah,
No, I have done that. I have done
Yes.
that.
Ajay,
I have done that.
Yeah, my screen is visible.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
visible.
Okay, fine. So at the outset, I would like to thank the dignitaries of all the three associations for providing me an opportunity to present my views on the indirect tax proposition, especially the GST of the budget 2022. As Ashwin Bhai has told that in this GST proposals, there are not much more propositions which has been made. And many of you might be wondering why it is like that. The obvious reason is that if you are practicing or knowing the GST law during the whole year by way of notifications and circulars, this law is operated. Therefore, if you will observe that in a year, minimum 4 to 5 times the amendment comes by way of issuance of a bunch of notifications and circulars. So it is just like a mini budget, and which has been there, and we being a professional, we have to study that. So in the main budget, there are not much more importance are there. Only the things which are required to be amended by way of changing the act, only those kinds of amendments are carried out. The major thrust which has been put this time in the budget 22 was in respect of GST was that major compliance needs to be done, and as well as the from the GST perspective, and main thrust has been given that why the reason of having the recovery of 1 lakh crore, 1,40,000 crore was due to the compliances to the GST law. And more compliance is expected so that the revenue can be increased, because at present only around 25 lakhs payers are there, and they are contributing to this 1,40,000 crores, and they are expecting to be of more revenue in the future, and we are marching towards the 3 billion economy. So and one of the very important thing in this budget is that none of the provisions which are applicable to the especially the construction industry, except those builders who, or developers who are into the commercial project, because all of you are knowing that in the builders community, not much they are not allowed to take the input tax credit, and in this time the more and more complexity and compliance mechanism has been in respect of the input tax credit, and therefore I don't know whether it is a blessing for the construction sector that not much law amendment has been there, but of course that they have been saved to a great extent. If after going through the my proposals, you will understand that yes, it is better not to take the credit. So now let's see what are the provisions which has been proposed in the law. First is, as I have told you, that the input tax credit. Now, all of you are aware that the input tax credit can be availed by filing form number GSTR 3B. If आप अगर वो फॉर्म भरेंगे तो उसके साथ ही GSTR 3B के साथ ही input tax credit ले पाएंगे. Now the time limit has been provided. Let's say, for example, for the financial year this 21-22, you can avail the credit only till the 20th October of the 20th October 2022. That means अगर आपसे कुछ कोई इनवॉइस रह गया है लेने में, then at the most for the financial year 21-22, the last date would be 20th October 2022. This date time limit has been extended to 30th November 2022. So an additional time limit of 40 days has been provided, that in case if you have not booked the invoices while filing a 3B form 3B, then in that respect the additional time limit has been provided. So this is a welcome provision, I would say, in respect of as far as the input tax credit is concerned. Now let's go to the next thing. Now it says the stricter condition for availing the ITC. Now since many of you must be reading in the newspaper or in the TV that every other day you will find a news that 100 crores fake invoice has been racket has been seized by the department and the owner has been behind the bars. And this practice of fake invoice is so rampant in the economy that it ultimately creates the problem to the economy, and therefore this time they have created a new norms, a stricter input tax credit norms. Let's see what are these input tax credit norms. Now, as you are aware, let's say for example, if the Ashwin Bhai has purchased the goods or services from me, then in that respect, when I submit my details of outward supply, that means this my sales transaction details into the government portal, the Ashwin Bhai on the 12th of the next day, he will receive one statement. In that statement, whatever goods Ashwin Bhai has purchased from all the vendors, including me, will be there on the in that statement. So on the basis of that statement, the Ashwin Bhai can take the input tax credit, and that statement is known as GSTR 2B. Now they are saying that in that GSTR 2B, we will claim the credit. You can claim the credit only if and only it is they have a right to restrict the credit. Now let us see which are the restrictions they have taken it up. So though the amount is reflected in the GSTR 2B Ashwin Bhai, but Ashwin Bhai cannot take the credit if it has been restricted. Now let us see which are the circumstances under which such kind of credits are restricted. Number one, during the initial period in which vendor has obtained the registration. Now say for example, the government wanted to check that in the initial period of registration, many a times these persons are doing that they will issue the invoices within a period of 1 month or 2 months, and then they will then shut their dukaan. वो अपना धंधा बंद कर देगा, GSTR 1 file करता, and then they will disappear. So now it appears that they will come out with a solution that in the initial first month or second month or third year of operation of that new registered person, credit will not be available. Second, if the vendor has defaulted in payment of tax or short paid their liability. Now in this our case, which example I have said, that when an Ashwin Bhai has procured the goods or services from me, if I have defaulted in making payment of tax, मैंने अपना tax नहीं भरा और कम भरा tax, then also the Ashwin Bhai will get a message in his GSTR 2B that Mr. Ashit Shah has short paid the tax, therefore your credit is restricted. So what it tries to say, Ashwin Bhai cannot take the credit of whatever goods or services which has been purchased from me. Third condition, if vendor has excess availed the ITC as compared to ITC available to them. Now if I wanted to give the credit to the Ashwin Bhai, then what I will do? I will file my GSTR 1, that is the details of outward supply, so that Ashwin Bhai will get the credit. But while filing making the payment of tax, I will say that I have not done any transaction. That means while filing GSTR 3B, मैं वो detail ही नहीं दूँ, payment ही नहीं करूँगा और वो detail भी नहीं दूँगा. So then what it happens? Government will not get the money, but Ashwin Bhai will be able to take the credit. And therefore now they are saying that if I have not paid the tax or not shown the full amount, then in that respect, Ashwin Bhai will not be able to get the credit. That credit would be restricted. And fourth condition, any other case, if it has been prescribed, restrict kabhi hoga, then the credit cannot be taken by the Ashwin Bhai, though it is it is available in his GSTR to be, that is the input tax register. So these are the conditions. So now just understand that in respect of a business entity, when they are procuring the goods or services from their vendor, how much care they need to take before taking the credit. And all this activity needs to be done within a very specified period of time. Now, how specified? Everyone knows that details of outward supply or sales has to be filed by 11th of the next month. So that means हमें January 2022 का details of outward supply फाइल करना है 11th February को. जैसे ही हमने फाइल कर दिया, 12th को हमें सारा डिटेल्स मिल जाएगा जिसके पास से हमने गुड्स परचेज किए हैं. तो हमारे पास कितना 8 दिन है. इन दैट 8 days पीरियड ऑफ टाइम वी हैव टू कंप्लीट द होल साइकिल. किसके पास से हमें गुड्स मिला, हमने परचेज किया है, उसने रिटर्न फाइल किया कि नहीं किया. अगर उसने रिटर्न नहीं फाइल किया तो वी हैव टू गिव देम अ कॉल, बॉस प्लीज फाइल द रिटर्न, देन एंड देन ओनली आई कैन गेट द क्रेडिट. इफ यू डोंट गेट इट देन वी विल नॉट गेट द क्रेडिट. तो मुझे पैसा भरना पड़ेगा, तो मैं उसे पैसा नहीं दूंगा. All this exercise needs to be done within that 8 days period of time. So one has to be very much careful, cautious and expeditious. Otherwise it would be very difficult for him to comply the law. Third, ITC will be denied due to the default of the vendor. Now, third thing is that suppose if the vendor has made any default, then also what will happen? That my ITC will be disallowed. What it tries to say is that if the ITC claimed by the recipient, but the supplier has not paid the tax to the government, then ITC to be reversed along with interest by the recipient. Now, मैंने आपको बताया एग्जांपल में कि I have sold the goods to the Ashwin Bhai, but unfortunately I have not paid the tax to the government treasury. So do you think that Ashwin Bhai will get the credit? Obvious reply is no. He will not be getting the credit. But suppose गलती से Ashwin Bhai ने credit ले लिया, in and hope that yes, Ashik Shah, since he is a GST consultant, तो वो he will pay the tax. But unfortunately, he is under a wrong hop, and accordingly he has taken the credit, but I have not paid the tax. Now he has to reverse the credit. He has to not only reverse the credit, but he has to also pay the interest on the same. And whenever I will make the payment, at that point of time, Ashwin Bhai will be able to take the credit of the same and not otherwise. So this is the provision that because of the fault of the vendor, now the supplier will not be able to get the credit of the same. So the moral of the story is that now while selecting the vendor, you have to be also cautious that you have to always work with a good person who is regular in complying the law. Otherwise, taking the input tax credit would be a nightmare for the business community. Then next amendment, limit for the use of ITC ledger. Another restriction which is coming out now. What is say that whenever you have an output liability, correct? Say for example, Ashwin Bhai has an output tax liability of say 10 lakhs rupees is there for the month of January 22. In his electronic credit ledger, he is having a input tax credit of 12 lakhs rupees. So now, so naturally he will not pay any tax because he is having sufficient input tax credit. But now the government wants no, Ashwin Bhai should not take the whole 10 lakhs rupees ka input tax credit. So now they are saying that the taxpayer can take only certain percent of liability could be paid through credit. So now they will come out with a proposition, and at present already the proposition is that in respect of those taxpayers who is required to discharge the tax liability of 50 lakhs rupees or more, then they have to discharge they can use the input tax electronic credit ledger to the extent of 99% only. That means 1% of the tax liability has to be discharged in cash only, and they have given certain conditions, right? So now this is nothing but what will happen that suppose if tomorrow instead of 1% they will make 5% or 10% also, and then if such kind of artificial blockage has been provided, then it would be very difficult for a business to survive, and this will definitely impact the cash flow of the taxpayer. So one has to be again very much careful for the same. Now, Next is in respect of submission of details of outward supply or outward tax liability. Now everyone aware that this details of outward tax liability statement has to be filed in form number GSTR1. Now suppose that during that period of time, if any credit note has to be issued because of the sales return, then the time limit which has been prescribed was only to the 22nd October of the 2022 for in respect of any credit note which has to be issued for the financial year 21-22. The last date will be 22nd October 2022. This date they have extended up to 30th November 2022. That means additional 40 days time limit has been provided to the taxpayer. So this is again a welcome step. Again, if any rectification needs to be made, suppose if I have filed my return or GSTR1 for the period April 21 to March 22, and during that period of time, if I came to understand that yes, while filing the return, some error has happened, or I have omitted certain transactions to be filled in this outward supply, then the time limit which is available to me was till 22nd October 2022. Now that again time limit has been extended to 30th November 2003. So in short, if you have to file your return GSTR1 or GSTR3B, now the time limit has been extended in respect of any amendment is by till 30th November 30th November of the next financial year. So this is the additional time limit has been provided. Then refund. This is very important thing. Now what they says that the refund of any kind can be withheld in a case of other non-compliance or non-payment of dues. So for example, if you have not filed your return GSTR1 or GSTR3B, or there is a non-payment of tax dues, then in that respect what law says that yes, if you have filed the refund claim, we will not issue the refund. So this is, that means you see how much compliance now would be have to be by the taxpayer, otherwise the refund will also be held up. Now
अरे આજે એને આવડે છે બોલી.
Hello, yeah.
Yes, continue, Arshit bhai. Arshit bhai, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have done that. Now suppose if a taxpayer like me, he doesn't file the return. Return here means GSTR1 or GSTR3B. Then what would be the consequences? The law says that if I don't file my return within the prescribed time, 2 months, then my GST registration would be cancelled. Right. So, however, the opportunity of being heard will always be given to me. But if within that opportunity, if I cannot satisfy the officer, then he will cancel my registration. Then if the vendor's GST registration is cancelled due to non-compliance, the same could impact your ITC claim. Right now, in this case, suppose if my GST registration is cancelled because of non-payment or non-filing of return, Ashwin Bhai's credit will go. So Ashwin Bhai को पैसा भरना पड़ेगा. Hence, it is very critical that every compliance are timely done. Otherwise, you have missed the bus. Then next amendment would be filing of the return. So as I have told you that GSTR1 cannot be filed for the current month if GSTR1 for the previous one is pending. So now another check which they are saying. Many times till this till now, what has happened that if I wanted to file my details of outward supply in form GSTR1 for the month of December 2021 is pending, I can file my GSTR1 for the month of January 22 also without any hesitation. But now it says that if you have not filed your GSTR1 for the current period, that means अगर आपका December का pending है, तो आपको first of all December का file करना पड़ेगा, January का file करना पड़ेगा, then and then only you can file the return for February 22, otherwise नहीं कर सकते. Similarly, अगर आपको GSTR 3B फाइल करना है तो you cannot file the GSTR 3B if you have not filed GSTR 1. तो सब जगह अभी उन्होंने एकदम पैक कर दिया है. If you have done just the bus at one place, then the penalty or the cost would be too much. Further, what they have done? कि अगर आपने GSTR टैक्स 1 में GSTR 1 में टैक्स नहीं भरना है, वहां आपने टैक्स लायबिलिटी बता दी 10 लाख रुपीस आपका आउटवर्ड सप्लाई के में, और आपने GSTR 3B में आपने आपका सेल्स बताया 8 लाख रुपीस. Then in that case they are saying that if it has been come to the notice of the department, then the department has all the right to recover that 2 lakhs rupees tax from the taxpayer without issuance of show cause notice. उसका मतलब ये हो गया कि अगर आपने टैक्स ये आपने एक महीने में, so in the month of this return GSTR 1 for the month of February January when you are filing, आपने 10 लाख रुपया बताया. GSTR 3B फाइल करने के टाइम 8 लाख रुपीस बता दिया. तो नेक्स्ट मंथ में मार्च महीने में if the department comes to know of this fact, immediately the officer will come to your office or give you a call that boss आपने liability नहीं भरी है 2 लाख की. अगर आप उसने satisfactory reply नहीं दिया, then in that case they will not issue any show cause notice. They will just start the recovery proceeding. What is recovery proceeding? They can attach your bank account or assets also. So one is to be very much careful. Now, हमने अभी restriction of input tax credit की बात की, right? Now what they are saying that while you are filing the outward supply, details of outward supply in GSTR 1, then what will happen? That GSTR details of supplies would be allowed to be filed subject to certain terms, conditions and restriction. That means यहाँ भी उन्होंने restrictions रख दिया है कि आप ये पीरियड की पहले की आउटवर्ड टैक्स सप्लाई नहीं दिखा सकते हैं. But all these conditions and restrictions will come when the rules will be finalized and come, and I think within a couple of days the rules will come. At that point of time, the detailed thing would be able to understand that what are these conditions and restrictions are. So friends, this is what all the summary about the indirect tax, or sorry, not indirect tax, GST propositions which has been proposed in the budget 2022. And now I start open the session for any queries in this respect. Hello.
Yes, yes, Asit bhai, thank you very much. Dilip bhai, any query you want to ask? I'll just...
Yes, good session, Asit bhai, and some common interested queries I can ask you.
Yeah, sure. So that's why we have planned it, Dilip bhai, in that manner only. Yeah. So that I understand that majority of the participants are from the real estate, so they may not be interested in this proposition, and that's why this concept has been put. Yeah.
Thank you. And now number one is like GST on the FSI sale. One small question, few seconds. Whether GST is payable on the FSI sale?
So if that FSI is used for the construction of residential complex, then in that respect exemption has been provided, and that exemption is only to the extent of unsold area. So now say for example, from the FSI what that has been bought by the builder, out of that before he has received the occupation certificate, 30% of the total constructed area remains unsold. So then in that respect, on that unsold portion, he has to discharge the tax liability. And this tax liability needs to be discharged at the end of the project. That means on the receipt of the occupation certificate.
It means unsold inventory, one builder has to pay on the 30% of the unsold inventory.
Correct.
If they have the more inventory, consider 50% unsold, then
then on 50%. So whatever is the unsold area, on
Acha,
that
okay.
unsold area, they have to discharge the tax liability.
Okay, what amount they have to consider?
So now here they are saying that whatever is the value of the ready reckoner value of the constructed property, that amount they have to taken into consideration. So for example, आपका जो suppose एक flat है जिसकी which has been sold to the nearer at that point of time, that value is say for example 1 crore rupees. So on that 1 crore rupees, that would be the value of that unsold area, and on that you have to discharge the tax liability.
Okay, got that. Thank you. And second part is whether GST on the TDR sale. If yes, then how much rate?
Same FSI, TDR, both will go on the parallel footing.
It means it is sellable and rate considered during the construction period itself, and the builder is having some additional such asset with them, rights, and they are selling it to some other developer to be used at some different plot.
Okay.
Yeah, in that case.
So you mean to say one developer is there, he is having an excess TDR with him.
Correct.
That he sells to the another developer.
Correct.
And that another developer will use that TDR for the construction of the residential complex.
Maybe commercial or residential or mixed project.
So, yeah. So if it is used for residential purpose, same law which will be applied for the in the other example which I have told you earlier example. Same way, man. Commercial ke liye, if it has been used, then immediately the tax needs to be discharged. But the tax needs to be discharged by the builder or developer, by the recipient. So in this case, your developer number 2 will pay the GST liability.
But then how, Asit bhai, I will come to know that to whom I am selling TDR, he will use in the construction. He may further do trading.
Correct. So you need to take the certificate from him that yes, I am using it for my own construction purpose. Then and then only the tax has to be discharged by the recipient. Otherwise, the supplier of the service has to pay it under the forward charge mechanism.
So only a declaration would suffice.
Yeah, otherwise how do we have a control over that?
Correct.
In case of commercial also same thing?
Yeah, commercial also same thing, but in commercial there is no exemption. Commercial तो immediately आपको भर देना है, not on the unsold area or not at the end when you receive the occupation certificate.
Okay, it means in case of TDR, if it is for the residential use, then the GST to be paid by the second developer at the end when he is selling the product, right? Or unsold inventory when he is getting the OC.
Correct.
And okay, and what about those projects where there is no OC at all and there are unsold inventory?
जहाँ OC नहीं है, तो then they have prescribed you to obtain the certificate from a chartered engineer that conditions has been prescribed. So you have to obtain a certificate from them, and on the basis of that they have to do it, but only on the unsold area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vyomesh, I think you have some question. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. So I will also have the liberty of asking questions to Asit bhai.
Yes. Speaker to speaker.
Vyomesh bhai, please don't ask me the question about income tax.
Sir, simple question. I came across something in, of course, in the Google, but I think this is not true. So I wanted to confirm it with you. As a developer, I still have an option to, pay the tax at 18% and claim ITC, right? Or not yet?
After 1/4/2019, no way.
No way, right?
No way.
So somewhere I read that it is still available. So I was just
No.
That was only for ongoing project as of on that day.
Yeah. So because I just got to know from
Again,
so I just thought
the project as defined in RERA.
RERA, yeah.
So phase of the project.
Correct.
So technically speaking, after any project which start after 1/4/2019, everyone has to follow under the new scheme.
That is 5% or 1%.
Yes. See, otherwise, as a builder, it becomes too difficult to determine input tax credit kitna hai, kitna lene ka, kitna pass on karna ka. That was a big problem.
Correct.
That's why now the life has become very easy for the developers and builders.
Correct.
क्रेडिट मत लो, सीधा 5% कलेक्ट करो और भर दो.
Yes, yes, correct, correct. Got it, sir.
Now, as regard landowner joint development, area sharing, right? So there, the land, the first part is development agreement.
Correct.
So that you explained that is to be paid at the time of OC if it is there are some unsold things. Now, what about the allotment to landowner? Say 20 units are allotted to landowner. So there the liability would be on the developer on forward basis.
So at that point of time, liability to pay the tax on that sale of transfer of development right would be on the builder and developer.
Yeah, on forward. But it would be discharged at the time of OC.
Receipt of the occupation. So now everything at the end, so that builder will get the sufficient amount till that point of time. That is the idea.
Correct, correct.
पहले पैसा मत लगाओ.
Asit bhai, added to this, in the development agreement, consider 10,000 square feet to be given to the landlord. Okay. And obviously GST to be paid at the end after OC.
Correct.
And then on this 10,000, the whatever may be the last sale price, they have to work out and immediately within same month or same year, what is the time when they have to pay?
So yeah, so you mean to say कि suppose मुझे OC आज February month में मिली है.
Correct.
Correct, and we are on the 4th of February. So immediately, whatever sale transaction which has happened after 4th of February, on that no tax needs to be payable because you have received the occupancy certificate.
No, he is talking about the allotment to landowner.
Oh, sorry. So for allotment to landlord also the same thing. आज 4 तारीख को मिला. My liability, I have to discharge the February month's liability in March month because वो जो liability start होगी आज से February month में. So that liability will crystallize or to pay in the month of March.
Same thing will apply in the part OC also?
No, part OC, there is no concept of part OC, sir.
Achha. For GST only full OC.
Full OC, yeah. GST full OC.
One more thing, in case of parking, builders are selling the parking, they are collecting full GST, 18%, right? But some of the builders are embodying the car parking inside the agreement for sale and no separate consideration is mentioned.
Right.
And in that case, only 5% on the aggregate consideration is to be paid.
Right.
Once the separate parking letter is allotted with the car parking consideration, they are collecting 18%. And then how would they be paying? Whether the 18% some set of ITC, what is the how this ITC can be possible in this case? Segregation of expenses.
Sir, to my mind, it would be very difficult to claim the ITC क्योंकि आपका project है, उसमें major project is the construction. In that you are trying to say that I am selling the parking place, तो उसमें तो generally construction होता ही नहीं है. आपको ITC भी क्या मिलेगी?
ये podium parking आजकल तो बहुत सारे
नहीं ठीक है कितना means the proportion of that ITC would be very minuscule, and then again to work out on a proportionate basis that would be really a challenging task.
Right. Got that.
And after understanding this proposition of budget 2022, now so it becomes very difficult for forget builder. For normal business also to claim the credit is a nightmare.
Correct.
Yes, sir. And in case of the every agreement, you see the in the last clause they mention advance maintenance for 1 year, 2 years, and then further they are adding development charges 5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, or some gas connection, electric deposit, or some club membership, health club, property taxes. All consider each one is 1 lakh each. Consider annual maintenance 1 lakh, club membership 1 lakh, gas connection, deposit, electric deposit, like this.
Correct.
And they are collecting the GST 18% on this.
Right.
And
so, if in my view, sir, it is a composite supply. So in GST, there is a concept like composite supply and a normal supply. So what do you mean by composite supply? It says whenever two or more supply are supplied in conjunction with each other, then in that case it's a composite supply, and you have to identify what is principal supply. So यहाँ मेरा sale of flat is the principal supply, construction services. उसके साथ ही ये जो सारी ancillary activity है, जैसे advance maintenance है, my clubhouse charges है, my advocate fees है, share transfer fees है, वो सारी चीज है ancillary है, इसी के साथ है. And you cannot bifurcate it. आप ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते हो कि मैं advance maintenance नहीं देता हूँ, खाली flat buy करना. Is it possible for you?
No.
No way. So it goes in conjunction with the main service. What is main service? Supply, construction service. Therefore, it is a composite supply, and law provides that whenever you are providing composite supply, you have to see the principal supply. In this case, principal supply is construction service, and the rate on construction service is 5%. So you have to levy 5%. However, recently in this Puranic developers AAR, that they have gone to the advanced ruling, wherein they have said that such kind of additional charges would be liable for 18%. And therefore, in an abundance precaution, nowadays builders are saying that on construction service we will charge 5%, on all other things we will charge 18%. But that is not the correct way.
So that's why nowadays a bucket price is coming. Don't mention all these things separately. Say 2.5 crore flat value, it will include 1 year of free maintenance.
Sir, it would be very difficult, I am telling you. You have to identify and quantify it, otherwise it would be very difficult. You cannot write it like that. Now suppose whenever you are paying that maintenance charges, advanced maintenance charges, you have to ultimately give the hisab or account to the prospective member, then only it would be, they will agree for that. So आप कैसे बोलोगे कि इतना ही है? So it becomes very difficult. So in order to safeguard at one end, you will be caught at other end.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So friends, we had a very good session today. So far as direct tax implication and indirect tax implication is concerned. Both the speakers, CA Vyomesh Pathak and CA Asit Shah. Asit Shah is the committee member of our RERA Practitioner Welfare Association. So he is actively engaged in our association. So with this, I propose a very well-deserved vote of thanks to both the speaker, and we will share the PPT to the group. And also this would be available on the YouTube, because we are live on the YouTube, so it would be available on YouTube also. So thank you very much, Vyomesh ji and Asit ji.
Yeah,
And also thanks to the other association who have joined the hand with us, and we will continue to do a joint seminar in future also. We are planning one seminar in the coming time on the issues of stall project and how to convert this stall project into reality. So for that, we are in discussion with MahaRERA also. And once we get the clearance, we will organize the webinar on that also, how to convert the LAPS project or stall project into reality. So with this, I thank you both the speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.